Hey bike farmers, thanks for clicking in. I got myself another Trek FX something or another here. I can basically tune up these bikes in my sleep. Something that's been weighing on my mind lately is, I'm a small business owner, and this whole tariff situation, and here in the bike industry, we just got through all the supply chain problems, and now they're looming over us again, and I'm worried about the industry. I'm really worried about bike shops. I don't know how people are gonna handle it. I think I'm in an okay position, but I'm not even sure. And so I'm just gonna kind of ramble on as I fix this bike today. You can watch what I do and listen to what I have to say. I know it's a little alarmist. I know it's a little bit sky is falling, but it's real. And everything I'm hearing, in the industry and what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing is very real, and it's troubling. And it's troubling for small business owners, essentially. I don't think people talk about it. There's all this big picture political talking about things, but the real effect on small business owners is a big deal. And I think I'm one of the lucky ones, and it's bugging me. So kick back and relax. I am going to get started on this Trek FX series bike. Well, full disclosure, I've never taken an economics course. I've never taken an accounting course. I've never taken a business course. All I do is fix bikes, and I'm not even super great at that. So this is just my take on things. But I don't know. It seems to me that a lot of small business owners are just like me, or maybe they had a passion, or they learned something or a skill, and they just figured out a way to make money with it on their own. Those of us that are able to do it, find work that's tolerable or somewhat enjoyable or provides you with some sort of satisfaction and make money at it without having to be an employee. I think we're the lucky ones. I think, our work-life balance and satisfaction overall is higher than most people that just, punch a clock and go home and spend family time, which there's nothing wrong with that. It works for the large majority of us. Not everyone's cut out to the, solopreneurship or small business ownership or whatever. And a lot of people don't jump into it because the risks are super high. And I always say, I think the risks of having a job are super high too, because I know a lot of people that work in research at the university or whatever, and they just lost all their funding. So their jobs, they used to have the greatest jobs available around, a research job with the university, and the new administration and the new world order and the way things are done is totally different now, and their source of funding just disappeared. Or you never know when a pandemic is going to wipe out your restaurant. We all are assuming a lot of risk financially in our lives. Nobody's secure. I don't think small business owners are. So just like employees can't control the poor decision making of the administrator, and I'm unable to predict what happens politically or if there's a pandemic or whatever. So I'm trying not to be sky is falling. It seems like a lot of this tariff talk, a lot of it gets rolled back when there's enough political pressure or economic pressure or something. We've seen it happen with the auto industry. There's certain industries that are protected. I don't think bicycles will ever be one because bicycles are toys and fixing them is a hobby. So it's not just me trying to defend this industry or whatever, but I do know that it has been very difficult to find parts in stock. A lot of our distributors haven't really recovered from the pandemic. A lot of suppliers haven't recovered from the supply chain issues from the pandemic. People are holding way too much inventory still. There's a lot of bikes out. Everybody's reducing SKUs and part numbers. Personally, I haven't hardly bought any new bikes, and I still have some on the floor from 2 years ago that I'm trying to sell through. This season has been absolutely, without a doubt, the slowest spring season, now partly because of the weather. The weather hasn't been the greatest, but it can't only be because of the weather. And I believe here at my business in my small town 10 miles south of Trek headquarters, arguably the #1 brand in cycling. You know, we should have a really strong cycling culture here. And although I don't really cater to cyclists, I cater to regular people, just salt of the earth Americans, working class. It's a very working class, middle class community here. And they do like to buy used bikes because it stretches their buck a little bit. People around here don't have a whole lot of money. I feel the effects of economic turmoil before anybody else. Now here's the thing is I can't explain that. I don't understand the ins and outs of my business and market. I just don't have the data or the skill set to analyze it. This is all just a hunch that I have. I'm sure I'll be accused of some sort of political bias that I have, just confirmation bias or something like that. But I felt that pandemic and everything that came along with it way before most other shops or people that were doing similar things, caught on. I felt like I was ahead of the game by a couple of months all the time, and I was reacting and thinking about things that then ended up happening or they were talked about in the industry newspapers. People were talking online. Sometimes 6 months after, I'm like, where have you been? I've felt this all along. I remember talking to my rep, I think it was in 2021, so the second year of the pandemic, and I don't know, it was like July or August. And I'm like, oh no, man. I'm like, I ain't buying bikes. No way I'm gonna buy bikes ahead of time. I'm like, it's gonna die. I'm like, it's gonna die next year. I'm like, I'm already feeling it. I'm like, customers aren't coming in the door. He's like, man, all my other stores are like begging me for bikes. And I'm like, it's a big mistake. The customers have stopped coming in. All the stimmies have been spent and blah, blah, blah. And sure as shit, they placed all these back orders and were on the hook for all this inventory. And everybody bought, and the customers weren't there. And I knew that the customers weren't there like 6 months ahead of everybody else. And right now, here at Gibbs Bike Shop, selling $350 used bikes, ain't nobody buying no bikes, I'll tell you that much. I think I sold 3 bikes last week. And typically this time of year, I'm selling 3 a day. It's really, really slow. Now, it could be because of my shady attitude in this channel, and maybe word's getting around that I don't treat my customers well. I'm down now to 3 days a week. I started at 4 days a week, and which I thought was a lot when I started. I don't know. I mean, honestly, just since the election, I was like, ooh boy. I just felt that consumer confidence was going to be low. All this tariff talk, I'm like, it's just going to drive prices up. It's going to be hard to get things. All of that. And it's, I don't control this stuff. And I'm not super vocal about that stuff. It's not like I'm online all the time and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'm getting a reputation and I'm just letting my business slide because I'm worried about the channel more than I should be or something. I don't know. I've made some videos where I'm like, man, should I just quit? The bike shop seems to be slowing down. It was really slowing down last year. All that's still like a viable, what makes the most sense for me kind of option. I keep the shop open because there are people around here that need their bikes tuned up or traded in for something that suits them better. And I can still serve that purpose. But man, people are really holding on to their wallets right now. The biggest problem with the tariff situation is, the boats have stopped carrying products. Like there's nothing coming from China anymore. And we're dependent on that. Small business owners, we can't just flip a switch and start buying American. You can't just start making this stuff here. It takes so much time and effort and money to tool up and start, somebody's like, why can't we just start making trucks in Waterloo again? It's like, holy shit, they don't have the facility. It's a marketing, accounting, engineering firm that happens to be making bicycles overseas, that's not what they do up there. It's not a manufacturing company. It's just not. I hate it when people call them manufacturer, like Trek is a manufacturer of bicycles. No, they aren't. They're a marketer of bicycles. They have somebody else do the manufacturing. They pay somebody. The engineers come up with the products and they're like, go make these products for us. That's how a lot of small businesses are too. People come up with a good idea. I came up with one with my sister-in-law years ago. I was like, called busybodies. This was when my kids were really little, and it was like basically the kids would have like little Velcro or little clips on their clothes, and you could clip little toys to keep toddlers, you know, happy and busy, and you know, they'd be on their bodies, and we called them busybodies. Never took off, but the idea was we'll develop these products, find a market, and then go find a manufacturer overseas and sell them. And there's a lot of small businesses like that that are built online, and they can't pay these super high prices for, you know, the tariffs. My largest distributor has been struggling, you know, parts distributor. All of the parts come from China and overseas. I mean, Taiwan too, but whatever, you know, but a lot of it is made in China. They've been really struggling since the pandemic, financially, I think. And a lot of people just don't cut them any slack, like they just think it's so easy or whatever. And I can't imagine they're gonna survive this. So that makes it harder for me to get product. And if I can't get product, then you may have watched the last couple of videos, you know, like getting bottom bracket, like the mountain or road bottom bracket cup situation was a situation during the pandemic. You could get one, but not the other. And so people were doing all these like workaround hacks. As I was reading about that problem, it was like, oh, that could just be that somebody was like messing around with the spacing, because all we could get back in the pandemic was the road side or the mountain side or whatever. And it created this issue, and we had to hack our way through it, which kind of brings me to the second point of my rant here. And that's what I do here is, frankly, I've never been good at business. I don't like dealing with major brands. I don't like just buying brand new things and marking them up, you know, doubling my money on products and being a retail guy, which a lot of cycling stores, that's their whole model. It's product in, mark it up, sell it. It's just about moving widgets. That's not my jam. You know, I like to add value to things like I'm doing right now. I'm cleaning this wheel, and now that it's clean, I can sell it for more, or I'm selling the service, I'm selling my labor, my skills. You know, that's a value add. I really firmly believe that like you need to be adding value and be more creative, and which is kind of like a little philosophical version of manufacturing. You know, I'm manufacturing value. I use my hands. I get off my ass and do something. And it's not just moving widgets. It's not just selling busybodies. You know, coming up with a new novel product and selling a whole bunch of it. That's one way to make money. But, you know, to me, it's like, oh, where's the value add? You just had a good idea, right? And I agree. Overall, like, America would have a healthier economy if we became, you know, a manufacturing society again. But man, I think that ship has sailed a long time ago, and we're a service economy now. And it's not just servicing bicycles, it's like, you know, software and research, and, you know, we're servicing society with another purpose. And that a lot of times that funding does come from the government, which a lot of people think is just communism or whatever. And I'm like, I tell you what, the only way we're going to start manufacturing here is if the government starts building factories and helping private companies, you know, make the big switch. And, you know, they're going to consider it. I mean, you just look at how they're talking about it. It's like, you know, the government is being treated like it's a corporation, and that money is like, you know, the government invests in companies. That means part ownership in those companies. They don't just like give you a factory and say, have fun. You know, they're going to want a return on their investment. And that means the government owns the means of production, which is communism. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem good to me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's pro-capitalism. Maybe it's, I don't know. Bigger scale, like philosophically, I'm really struggling to find out any of it makes any sense. But in the meantime, I have to focus on what I'm doing here in my small business. I'm going to try to stay focused on that and not just like, anyway, we'll get there. So anyway, I've been thinking about it a lot, and you know, are these tariffs going to kill the bike industry? Is it going to kill bike shops? It's going to kill a lot of things. It's going to kill a lot of them. It's going to be a struggle. It's really going to be hard on a lot of small shops like mine. People are going to have to figure out a different way to make money, because there's no way that If I didn't have this YouTube channel, I'd have to be getting a job right now. I'd have to be finding something else to do. No doubt about it. There's no way I could survive like I have the last 10 years. Okay, let's be realistic. This is my 9th season. You know, there's just no way that I'd be able to hack it through this turmoil. And that's what it is this turmoil. There's uncertainty. Nobody can plan. I have no idea if customers are going to start coming back in August. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to get chains in July. If I believe everything I read, I ain't going to get chains in July. They're not on the ships now, so they're not going to be processed through the supply chain. And they're not going to be available. Everybody's saying stock up. And I'm like, why would I stock up? There's no customers. Nobody's spending money. You know, the consumer confidence is so low. So, I mean, I don't know what the price of eggs has to do with it, but there's still a shortage on eggs and they're still expensive. It seems like the wrong problems are being solved. Like, why is it so important to be seeing China as ripping us off just because they're getting ahead in the manufacturing game? Like, it seems like a lot of people had a lot of great things going by having manufacturing done with cheap labor overseas. And I don't really see how that's really negatively affecting people economically here. Yeah, manufacturing jobs have gone the way of the dodo in America. Maybe that's it, but it sure seems like a whole lot of people are getting super rich. So it's got to be good for someone. And maybe there's a way to figure out a way to include others in that doesn't require manufacturing labor. I don't know. Seems like there's got to be a better way to solve this problem, because just gearing up to manufacture new products doesn't seem to make any sense. And I've never really wanted to play in that game. And I really like the idea of used bicycles because there's a surplus of them. They're all over the place. You can get them super cheap. And you can get them super cheap because most of them aren't working or working very well. And I know how to make them work well. So, you know, that's what I do. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm manufacturing bicycles. My supply chain is out there in garages all over the country, all over the place. There's bikes like this in garages that just need to be tweaked here and there and put on the sales floor, and I can mark them up and make a good margin and make money, and other people can too. And it's not that hard. We do need to get replacement parts a lot of the time, so that's important, and those parts need to be manufactured somewhere. But a lot of the times you can strip some bikes to build others. There's a lot of nonprofit co-ops that do that, but it's a form of manufacturing. And I've been thinking philosophically about it, and it's like, I don't want to say I'm tariff proof, because with all the uncertainty, it lowers consumer confidence, so people aren't spending money. You know, people aren't spending money, they're not coming here to buy used bikes either. However, my prices are cheap enough that it's still affordable. It's not, people don't have to dig as deep into their pocketbook, and if they need or want a new bike, I have a nice, cheap, American-made, tariff-free option for them. I'm not forced to deal directly with the tariffs with selling complete bicycles. I certainly am with selling parts and accessories, but I've never done a whole lot of that at all, ever. So I'm just not as dependent. So I'm very grateful for that, and very concerned with the people that are still kind of struggling from the turmoil of the pandemic. It would just be nice if we knew exactly what the plan was, so we, as small business owners in general, could be, you know, making plans ourselves. You know, these broad sweeping comments of, well, start figuring out a better way to do it then. You know, it's like, man, it would have been nice to have a couple years, 5, 6, 7 years heads up on that. It takes a while. You can't just flip a switch. A lot of small business owners aren't innovators. They're not engineers. They're not building designers. They're not investment bankers. You know, there isn't cash in the bank to just flip a switch and just start building shit. At least not in the banks of small businesses, not in the banks of bicycle manufacturers, or basically anyone in the bike industry, because it's been so depressed the last handful of years. Yeah, it's just been a struggle. It's like the worst possible thing to be happening to us right now. But I don't know, what do you think? With used bicycles, you guys have been watching the channel long enough. I've been around, you kind of know the gist of what I'm doing here. Am I tariff proof? Does it affect everyone? Is it possible to produce a bicycle, an affordable bicycle? So a brand new version of this is $800, let's say. Do you think you can produce something of this high a quality in the United States and sell it for $800 and, have everybody make money? Do you really think that's possible? And if so, how? Let us know in the comments, how is that possible? Think through the whole problem, because I don't think it's possible. I don't think there's a chance in hell. This one was made in China. It says right here, made in China. And I saw somewhere that the manufacturing labor rate in China is like $1 to $5 an hour. I would think that, let's say it's $5 an hour, that's the high end of things. Just the wage, like not even talking benefits or whatever, to be a living manufacturing wage, it would have to be 5 times that here in the United States, $25 an hour, for people to want to do that work here. And then knowing that all of the other parts would have to come from the United States too, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. How is it not a $4,000 bicycle? And if people aren't willing to spend $400 on a used one of these, already tuned up and ready to go for the rest of their lives, what makes you think that they'd spend $4,000 on a bike brand new? Most of my bikes, my personal bikes, are bikes that were actually manufactured in America. I have a custom Waterford, I have a custom Ellis, I have a Rivendell all-arounder that was made in the Waterford factory. I have a custom Apple, Mike Apple built that one. My Merlin titanium was probably welded by Tom Kellogg, did I get that right? Made by Merlin here in America. But every single one of those bikes that I listed is ridiculously expensive because, simply because it was made here in the States. And frankly, this aluminum bike and these welds and just the design, the tubing, the manufacture, everything is so much better than anything that could be made in an American factory today. Now the custom steel bikes, it's a different story, but you don't find too many custom aluminum bikes, and to do all of this in a custom setting would be super difficult and crazy, insanely expensive. Most custom bikes are made with steel because it's easier to work with. So, you're not spending 4,000 hours building a custom aluminum bike. And then, it doesn't make any sense at all to make custom steel bike or custom carbon bikes, because carbon fiber is made with molds. Most of the expense is in the engineering and the designing of the molds and making the molds, and tooling up to make a production run. And you got to make multiple of them in order to bring the cost down, because building custom carbon bikes one at a time would just be insane. And the market is what the market is, and the marketing has already been done, and it's all carbon and aluminum now. So you'd have to change all the marketing. It's just not feasible. I know there's plenty out there that are just they're screaming Trump derangement syndrome and, anti-America, I don't know, what else? I can't even imagine what some of you are actually thinking. And the fact that people think it's all political. No, I'm actually trying to understand how exactly, I understand necessity is the mother of invention, and that if you make it impossible for people to afford things in China, then they have to make them here. You know what I mean? Okay, but how can you make everything so impossible to afford and not have all prices everywhere on everything rise up? And how is that not inflation? And how does that not affect interest rates? Like, again, I've never taken economics classes, but my basic understanding is, inflation goes up, so do interest rates, and people aren't buying houses. If people aren't buying houses, that's not good either. Literally the only way I can think of to solve the problem is if the government, which apparently is broke. If you didn't know, there's we're a few $1,000s in debt, but have the government invest and build everything, but then wouldn't they own it? How's that not socialism or communism or all the things that supposedly the current administration is against? I mean, it's no secret. I don't like the guy. I don't like Donald Trump, but I don't like, it's pretty much strictly for personal reasons. I could not care less about the fact that the guy became a politician and made everything about politics for himself. It doesn't have anything to do with it for me. I just don't like the guy. But this idea of tariffs and fighting with China or the rest of the world as if it's some sort of business competition where if one guy's winning, the other one's losing, I don't buy it. I never have. I'm just not a competitive person. I don't think that you have to lose for me to win. I think we can both win, honestly. And I think we can work together in general. And even if your government is run poorly as a socialist, communist, I don't even know how to explain what China is anymore. That it doesn't matter. It's they're really good at manufacturing. So is Taiwan, so are a lot of other places. But I don't think, America has good manufacturing companies, right? But we're not good at manufacturing for cheap anymore. We just can't pay the labor. People need more than that to live, and people aren't going to buy this bike. They're not going to pay $4,000 for this bike. They're not even paying $400. So help me understand how any of this works. This one's good to go though. That is a finely well-tuned machine. I could tighten this front brake a little bit. This one had just been sitting a while. Had a little bit of, the wheels needed a little bit of touch-up work. It's got good air in the tires. Needed some lube and adjustment. The brakes were all sorts of wacky. But not anymore. The shifting is immaculate. This 9-speed stuff is fantastic. Thanks for indulging me. Please let me know in the comments. Go ahead and freak out about politics if you have to, but I just really would like to understand the economics and the business sense behind the tariffs. And if you have any way to make me feel better about not having any customers coming through my door and not making any money on my bike shop this summer, let me know what I can do, and should I wait it out and all of that stuff. I'm gonna, whether you like it or not, I'm just gonna try to keep it open 3 days a week. We're down to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 10 to 6. It's whatever. It is what it is. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm starving. If you can't tell, literally I need second breakfast, but there's no money coming through the door to support the bike shop right now. So send a super thanks if you got a little extra. It really does help. The channel's doing well, which is great, but I was really planning on this time of year having both things going full tilt boogie, and the channel's doing well, but not great, and the bike shop is in the tanks right now. So click that super thanks button. If you've got an extra 20 bucks, 100 bucks, whatever, send it my way. I love that. You can join the channel as a monthly sustaining member. The WPR NPR drive, fundraising drive was this week, and they're most people give $10 or $20 a month. And I'm like, yeah, $10 or $20 a month. You probably have some subscription on your phone or your app subscription, the training app that you're the weight loss thing that you signed up for last year. Cancel that. Take that 10 bucks, 20 bucks a month and give it to the Bike Farmer instead. You can do that by clicking the join button right here in YouTube. But for yourself, click that notification bell so you and your bikes can stay tuned.